Hey, everybody. Today is the last lesson for Unit 8. So we are on 8.5. It's a short unit. Um, this video, I need you guys to make sure that you have your book because you're going to have to be writing and following along and definitely watching the whole thing because we're coming up on our Unit 8 check-in, not a test. We don't call it that right now during these virtual learning platforms, but it's going to be a check-in, and you're going to need to know how to draw a few things that we haven't done in a while. We've done them, but it's been a long time. So make sure you watch the whole thing in its entirety before you try any on your own. Okay, so this is on page 481 in your Unit 8 math book. And then you're going to want to have lesson 8.5 notes with you. You'll see it's a number story about Mrs. Chambers and Mrs. Petros, the example. We're not going to do this problem. It is really nice, though, to be able to reference it. There are some key things, though, in our notes that are going to be helpful to us when we're tackling these word problems today. All right, so let's just dive right in. All right, now this is a beautiful photo of the Grand Canyon, which our problem is going to be about. So it says the deepest part of the Grand Canyon is about 1 1/6 miles deep. Wow, that's a long way down. The deepest part of the ocean is located in the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean. The deepest part of the ocean is almost 6 times as deep as the deepest part of the Grand Canyon. About how deep is the deepest part of the ocean? So there's a few things here. The first thing I want to do, we're going to mark it up, but this question kind of asks us that. What do I need to find? Well, it says I need to find about how deep is the deepest part of the ocean. So I'm going to underline that. And I'm going to write right here, I need to find how deep the deepest part of the ocean is. So I want to figure out, we know the Grand Canyon is 1 1/6 miles deep about. I want to know about how deep the deepest part of the ocean is. That's the question in this problem. Excuse my handwriting again. I'm doing the best I can. I'm really trying hard, but these drawing tools are not it's not as easy as if I was writing on a smartboard. All right. Now, there's some other key things in the problem that we want to make sure that we look at too. So it says the deepest part of the Grand Canyon is about 1 1/6 miles deep. That's going to be very important. So we're going to circle that. It's 1 1/6 miles. And the word about, yes, means to estimate usually. In this problem, they're just giving us a good guess. Okay. They're saying it's about 1 1/6. Might be a few inches more. That's why they're saying about. All right. It's a good guess. The other important thing we want to underline is that the deepest part of the ocean is almost 6 times as deep. So I want to circle 6 times as. All right. Now, if you guys think back, way back to Unit 2 and Unit 3, probably was like October, November-ish, we were doing comparison problems. So we're going to be doing those today, only we're not talking about whole numbers. We have a mixed number here. All right. So where it says, what information do I need to use? We're going to fill in these blanks. The deepest part of the Grand Canyon is about 1 1/6. So I'm going to write that mixed number, 1 1/6 miles deep. And the deepest part of the ocean is about 6 times as deep. So something that's really important to know about these types of problems, which one's going to be more deeper, the Grand Canyon or the deepest part of the ocean? Well, think about it. The language here is important. If it's saying the deepest part of the ocean is 6 times, that means that I'm getting 1 1/6 and I'm timesing it by 6. So the ocean is actually going to be deeper. All right. So how can I use this information? I can draw a comparison model. So I'm just going to write draw model. Draw a model to compare the depths. And the depths, guys, that just means how deep each one is. So that's the whole lesson today, is we're going to be drawing these models. All right, so let me go back up. All right, and it says draw a model, compare the depth of the deepest part of the Grand Canyon and the deepest part of the ocean in miles. So if you guys look at your notes here, all right, at this example, look at step number 1. This is important because you're going to have to, in this one, the model is done for you, but later you're going to have to draw the model yourself. So it says label what is being compared in the story. Draw boxes next to the labels to match the information in the story. All right, so the first thing I want to label is the first thing we're comparing, which is going to be the Grand Canyon. And I'm going to do GC for short. Okay. And then we're comparing that to the Mariana Trench. So for that one, I'll do MT. And it's okay to abbreviate. It's okay because the lines aren't really long. And I definitely couldn't fit that in writing with this mouse. All right. So we're comparing the Grand Canyon to the Mariana Trench. The other thing it says in step number 1, it's in big bold. All right, this is really important right here. It says, remember, you only draw one box for the smaller amount. So you can see right here, that's already been done for us. 1 and 1/6 has already been drawn for us, and they put 1 and 1/6 inside. Okay, now the only thing we know about the Mariana Trench is that it's 6 times larger. So what they did was, they drew one box for the Grand Canyon and put 1 and 1/6. For the Mariana Trench, they did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes, okay? Because we're comparing it, and we know that it's 6 times deeper. Down here at the bottom, you guys will remember this from way back, they put a bracket. And what that bracket is saying is that if we figure out what goes in each of these 6 boxes, we're going to combine all of that to figure out about how much, or about how deep the Mariana Trench is. This M doesn't stand for Mariana Trench. The M is the variable. You might remember that word. The variable is the unknown. In fact, I do remember this was Halloween because I said it's spooky, it's unknown, it was Halloween time, it's the unknown number. That's what we're trying to get. All right. So right here it says M is going to be the deepest part of blank in miles. All right. It's going to be the deepest part of what in miles? Deepest part of the Grand Canyon or the deepest part of something else? Well, we already know the deepest part of the Grand Canyon is 1 and 1/6. It's going to be the deepest part of the ocean. So let's write ocean. Okay. All right. Now, M equals blank. So this would be step number 3. All right. Step number 2 was to put the numbers in the box. Now, again, we only know the Grand Canyon. That's why we haven't filled in the Mariana Trench. All right. So step number 3 is write the equation. So that's write the problem. So since the word times, we know it's 6 times as deep, we know we're going to be multiplying here. All right. So we're going to say 6 times 1 and 1/6. Okay, so now this is just like the lesson from yesterday and from last Thursday. Now I'm multiplying a whole number times a mixed number. So the first thing I know I have to do is I have to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. So I'm going to do that right here. So I have 1 and 1/6. I'm going to start at my denominator. I'm going to think 6 times 1. 6 times 1 is 6. Add my numerator. 6 times 1 is 6. Plus 1 equals 7. Denominator stays the same. All right, so 7, 6. So I'm going to write right here. Remember, this is the same thing I did yesterday. I'm writing my 7, 6 right underneath my 1 and 1/6. and I'm going to multiply that by my whole number. I'm just breaking these down. 6 times 7, 6. Whoa. Look at that X. That's a funky looking X. All right, so 6 times 7, 6. All right. So when I do that, I'm just going to multiply my whole number times my numerator. 6 times 7 is 42. Whoop. 42, and my denominator stays the same. Scoot that down a little bit. Fix my 2 here. It's driving me nuts. 42, 6. Okay? Now, the last step, whenever I have an improper fraction, I need to change it back into either a mixed number or a whole number. So, and you see that right here. It says write the fraction as a whole number. So what I could do is, I know I'm going to divide 42 divided by 6. So 6 times what gets me close to 42? Actually, does anybody have a realization right now? I can hit 42 exactly if I multiply 6 times 7. So 6 times 7 is going to be 42. 42 minus 42 would be a 0, which means there's no remainder. So when I write my answer, am I going to write 706? No. All I have to write is simply 7. There's actually not going to be a mixed number for my answer. So 7 what? We would say it's about 7 miles. Think about that. The deepest part of the ocean is 7 miles. To put this into perspective, think about this. If we walked from Penn Beach Elementary School to the firehouse up by the light there by the high school, that's about 1 mile. Imagine looking down that far, 1 mile, that's far. Now times it by 7. That's an extreme amount of depth for the deepest part of the ocean. That's insane when you think about it like that. Okay. So again, this is not super easy. The deepest part of the ocean is about 7 miles deep. All right. So once we get the model done, then we are just simply figuring out, then we're just doing what we did yesterday. Okay. So I just realized we could have filled in these boxes, right? 1 and 1/6 times 6. So in each one of these boxes, it's going to be 1 and 1/6. 1 and 1/6, because all we were doing was we were timesing it by 6. I think I was looking too far ahead and not realizing that. 1 and 1/6. And remember, guys, you should have this whole page done now. And if you didn't do it while I was saying it, go back and fill it in now. But if we look at this, guys, we could simply just count the holes, right? Look, 1 hole, 2 hole, 3 hole, 4 hole, 5 hole, 6 hole. So that's 6. 1 6, 2 6, 3 6, 4 6, 5 6, 6 6. 6 6 equals 1 hole plus the original 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So that would be 7 miles deep. Okay, so that is example number 1. Let's go to the next page. And I think on the next page, we're going to actually have to, make the model ourselves. So let me erase this. I hope everybody's doing good right now. If you haven't already, while I'm erasing this, I'm just going to remind you, look at our daily log, and there is a new Flipgrid this week for a quarantine video that you guys can do, because I've been missing you guys very much, and I want to hear about what you've been up to, and I'm sure some of your classmates do too. Okay? All right, so let's go to the next page. So this would be on page 482. All right, and let's read it together. So it says, mountains are often measured by the distance they rise above sea level. That's a social studies word. Mount Washington rises more than 1 1/10 miles above sea level. Mount Everest rises about 5 times as high. About how many miles above sea level does Mount Etna rise? Okay, so what do I need to find? Miles for Mount Etna. And if you guys remember, we actually read a benchmark poster way back about Mount Etna. Miles for Mount Etna. So I want the height for that mountain. Okay. What information do I need to use? Well, we know that Mount Washington, so I can do Washington, I'll do a W, is going to be 1 1/10. And I know that Etna, it says, because Mount Washington is right here, 1 1/10. Oh boy. And it says, let me change my color now so we don't get confused. Mount Everest is going to be 5 times as high. Okay, so for Mount Etna, I'm going to say it's a pretty blue, 5 times higher. Okay, so how can I do this? I can draw a diagram. All right, so what are the two things that I'm comparing? That's step number 1. Well, it's Mount Washington is the first mountain to Mount Etna. I'm sorry, Mount Everest. Whoa, messed that up. They both begin with A. All right, so Mount Washington to Mount Everest. So for the smallest one, the smallest mountain, this whatever the smallest thing is you're comparing, last one was the Grand Canyon, that one's getting 1 box. So which one's bigger, Mount Washington or Mount Everest? Well, Mount Everest says it's 5 times higher, so Mount Everest is going to be the bigger one. So Mount Washington is getting 1 box. Okay, Mount Everest is going to get 5 boxes. All right, so how big is Mount Washington? Well, it's 1 1/10. All right, and let's do 5 boxes for Everest. All right, and in each one of these boxes, we're also going to put 1 1/10. And we're putting that in each of these boxes because we know that Mount Everest is 5 times greater than Mount Washington. Last one. Okay. The very last thing I need for my model is my bracket because I'm going to be comparing and putting all of these together. All right. Now, I'm going to use a variable. I'm going to use H. You can use any lowercase letter is fine. So if you want to use your first initial, that's fine too. So Scott, if you're watching, you can use the letter S. Tyler, if you're watching, you can use the lowercase t. I'm just going to use H. It was the first letter that popped in my head. All right. In fact, we're talking about height, right? The height of the mountain. So that makes sense. All right. So H is the height of the mountain. So now I'm going to write my equation. So I'm going to be doing 5. It's my whole number. Because it's 5 boxes, right? It's 5 times greater. Times my mixed number, 1 1/10. Okay. This brings us back to the lesson that we were done yesterday, and you guys did really awesome on your Flipgrid videos. If you didn't do yours yet yesterday, it is a grade, so you want to make sure you get that done today. All right. First thing I do is I'm going to change this guy into an improper fraction. So 10 times 1 is 10 plus 1 is 11. Write it underneath. 11 tenths. Bring down my 5 times. Okay. Multiply 5 times 11 equals 55. Denominator stays the same. Tenths. Okay. My answer has to be a mixed number, so what do? How do I get this new mixed number? That line means to divide. So I'm going to do that over here. 55 divided by 10. How many 10s fit inside of 55? 5. 10 times 5 is 50. Subtract 55 minus 50 is 5. And then we know to get a mixed number from this, I think of those 3 words: quotient, remainder, divisor. If I do that, the answer for H equals, my quotient is 5. My remainder is 5. And my divisor is 10. So we could say the height of Mount Everest is 5 5/10 what? Miles. And that is going to be our answer. Okay, so this lesson is a lot like the lesson we did yesterday, only now we're adding in these models. So do you need to know how to draw the models? Yes, you do. So some key things you want to pick up. The smallest one always gets 1 box. Okay, whenever you see it says a number times, that's the number that you're going to be multiplying by, and that's going to be the bigger mountain or the biggest whatever you're talking about. Okay, and then the last thing you need to remember is at the bottom, you always need to have some sort of a variable, which is that lowercase letter. All right, and one more bonus thing, don't forget to label whatever it is you're talking about. All right, if you have any questions, join me in room 130, and I will see you guys soon, hopefully. All right, guys, see you later.